The boy was born to be king, but he didn't know. So he lived as a peasant and he died as a slave, even though he was king all the while. My name is Ikem Elvis Nnadi. I'll be talking about how your thoughts can be your greatest enemy. One day I woke up to a Facebook notification. It was a suggestion about a video. The title was How These Rappers Predicted Their Future. I clicked and I watched, and it was talking about these rappers and how they sang certain things in their songs, and it happened. You know, Jay-Z's and Kanye West and the rest of them. I thought to myself, it's interesting. Did they predict their future? I'm not going to talk about that because I don't have the exact answer. Fact is, before you say something, you think about it. Even though you're not consciously thinking about it, you are still processing it in some way before you actually say it. So, what made these rappers think about this thing so often? Even though their current situation didn't say anything about what they talked about, what made them think about this thing so often that they believed it and they put it in their music? Well, neuroscience says neurons that fire together wire together. In simple terms, when you think about a thought, it's like creating a path, say from a bush, creating a pathway. The more you think about that thought, the bigger it becomes, the stronger it becomes. Sometimes you can think about a thought over and over again that it becomes like a highway. It becomes a stronghold. Now you don't need to consciously think about it. You just think and act that way. It's obvious that the way you think can control your life. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you just have this boost of confidence. You dress well and then you go out and you feel confident. And the other days you come up and there's nothing like that. Nothing really changed in your circumstance, nothing changed in your environment, only your internal process, thinking process that changed, and it controlled and influenced the way you appear, the way you act. You've probably experienced this when you're thinking about a car or a particular color. When you step out of your house, you start to see that car everywhere or that color everywhere. It's not like the car wasn't there in the first place or all the while. It's just that now your mind is open to it. There's something called the reticular activating system. What it does is it makes you see, it brings to the forefront the things that you are aware of, things that you're conscious about. Say, for example, the car that you've been thinking about lately. Now you see it everywhere. It's always been there, but now you see it because your mind picks up on those signals that you are thinking about. And that's why if you see people that think happy thoughts most of the time, they're happy. See people that think about sad things, they're usually depressed. Fact is that you can go from being happy to depressed by just changing your thought pattern, changing the things that you think about regularly. And we've seen that in our society, the way our society has unfolded. When you start thinking about all the evils and the injustice in the world, you see more and more of it. And the more you think of it, the deeper it goes. So it's some sort of this unending rabbit hole. I can't tell you where thoughts come from. Nobody can really tell you where thoughts come from. But I can tell you how thoughts can be influenced. There's a quote by the famous Jim Rohn. He told a story about teaching a couple of kids, and he asked them a question. If someone puts sugar in my coffee, what would happen? He said, well, you'll be fine. He said, good. If someone puts strychnine in my coffee, what would happen? He said, well, you'll be dead. He said, good. Lesson one, life is like a coffee. He said, what if my worst enemy puts the sugar in my coffee? He said, well, you'll be fine. He said, good. Well, what if my best friend, by accident, puts the strychnine in my coffee? He said, well, you'll be dead. He said, lesson number two, watch your coffee. See, it doesn't matter who gives you the bad things, who hands you the bad stuff, it will still have the effect on your life. And that's how it is. Even though you cannot tell where it's coming from, you have to watch what gets into your subconscious. The Bible says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. I think somewhere in translation we lost it. It's not heart. The heart is a blood pumping machine. That's not the one it's talking about. The heart there means the subconscious. It's your mind it's talking about. Guard your mind with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life. You see, the thoughts that you maintain in your mind will direct the way your life goes. Whether you experience happiness, whether you experience joy or sadness. So it's like heaven and hell, light and darkness. It all starts here. The thoughts that you keep in your mind, things that you constantly think about, regulate how your life functions, basically. So back to the boy that would have been king. I'm sure you've seen some people that you know, super talented, super beautiful, super smart. And you know that if you had half of their intelligence, you probably do way better than they're doing right now. You try to talk to them, but they just can't see it. This is how it is. If you don't bring it to your consciousness, it may completely elude you. Even though you have the qualities, even though you have the requirements to be great, you can still be mediocre if you don't think that you're great, if you don't think in that direction. So, how do you create the thought patterns that can foster your dreams, that can foster your potentials? Same thing. How do you bake a cake? Get the required ingredients, remove everything that's not required. That's how you bake a cake. Same thing. Watch the thoughts that come into your mind, the things that you want, the thoughts, watch the thoughts that don't support them and exclude those ones. So I'll end with the words of Jim Rohn: watch your coffee. And that is something worth thinking about.